You're such an asshole.
Hello, children. What's going on? Hey, Crappy, I would like a video request on this topic that I think you and your audience will find thought-provoking. Please keep me anonymous. As I've seen you mention before, past generations before the boomers were lied to about the aspects of life, whether it was about career, jobs, relationships with the opposite same sex. What do you mean before? Guys, I have so much tremendous stupid shit to deal with in my real life with the who dang digglies out here. Please write correctly. The generations before the boomers were lied to about all aspects of life? You mean the generations after the boomers? I don't think World War II generation was lied to with the Great Depression and World War II. Maybe you could argue the flappers and the Roaring '20s generation after World War I, but not World War II. I'm not going to guess people's mistakes. What's important in life, etc. But I have not seen anyone pose the question as to why did the boomers start lying to their children to begin with? I'll posit my thoughts and you can let me know if I'm hitting in the ballpark or not. From what I've seen, the boomers always looked up to their silent World War II generation counterparts as the pinnacle of American society. No, the boomers said don't trust anyone over 30. Now, maybe you saw something different, but the baby boomers were probably the first, maybe not most completely disrespectful, but they were the first and at the time the most disrespectful generation America had ever seen. After people grew the fuck up a little bit, after the boomers got a taste of their socialist dick that they want to put in their own mouths under Carter and stagflation in the 70s, like, and Ronald Reagan came in and said, hey, do you guys want jobs? That maybe they grew up a little bit. Oh, hey, now they're the most conservative generation in America. But at the time, they were the most disrespectful, utterly contemptible generation the U.S. had ever seen. They did not look up. They besmirched it. There, I remember even when I was alive, baby boomers were kind of adults then. Where June and Ward Cleaver, what is it? Leave it to Beaver? What do you mean there's no Social Security? So I don't know where you're getting your data. Boomers in the early years of the 40s and 50s had an economy that was 4 to 5% GDP per quarter on it. No, it's per year. Had stable to extremely favorable employment opportunities. Schooling was much better. Had a massive construction projects that expand across America, housing, roads, office buildings, and the like, all while maintaining affordable housing and property values. However, with all those advantages that they had versus their parents, 1930s labor camp was not fun. They did not come close to matching up to their idols. Well, yeah, it's the opposite. Here's just to give you how humans work. The better you treat humans, the worse they'll do. Humans are built to overcome and resist. If you pamper their asses, they become worthless pieces of shit. Look at every privileged little under 40 something that got bought and paid. Oh, got a cow. Adult children. Now, I'm not saying you got to make it impossible either, but you cannot spoil humans. They will just go back to their base setting, which is laziness. They did not come close to matching their idols. Well, they also didn't have really an opportunity. Now, I'd say Vietnam veterans did. If you're a Vietnam veteran, pretty much all the criticism everyone lays against boomers is intended for non-veterans. I think we intensely hate the hippies, and we actually do like our veterans. But as a group, yes, they didn't really have an opportunity. My one thought was that since they never had an opportunity to grow up. I mean, the 70s were pretty bad, and they grew up a little bit, but nothing like the Great Depression or anything. My one thought was that since the boomers knew they would never amount to their World War II counterparts, instead of improving their situation, become as good as the World War II generation, just understanding that it was a unique time and accepting that it's fine to amount to that so long as they had each other, they decided to go the lazy route and make their kids worse than them to feel better about. No. You're attributing way too much intelligence to human beings. Boomers are not. That would require a level of self-awareness that they just don't have. They didn't hate their children. They didn't have that much contempt for the children to say, "I can't wait to use them to make myself feel better." No. Here's the short answer. This is where I disagree. Boomers are just like any other human. They have a default setting of laziness, and they will go to it if you pamper them and let them go there. And that's what happened. It's hard to raise children correctly. It's hard to support a family. These are challenging, and that is what builds character. That is what makes you a real man and a real woman. Is you go through trials and tribulations, you persevere. And I'm not even talking statistically unlucky things or bad things like you get a bout of cancer or there's a tragic accident. Those are obviously challenging. Just surviving, working up the money to pay for yourself and your family, that is a challenge enough. Then to spend the time to raise your children correctly. That right there will take the dirtiest of iron and turn it into the cleanest of steel. The boomers just didn't want to raise their kids. That's what it was. They were lazy. Now there was this yuppie movement, the materialism of the 80s, that's very obvious, in the 90s, and McMansions. So they would work hard in that regard to get money and things and stuff. But when it came to actually sitting down telling your children no, this is where the no spanking and free range children and Dr. Spock, not from Star Trek, a child psychologist. Look him up. Look at the, oh, hey, man. That they just didn't want to do the work. That's how simple it is. There you go. Also, very obviously, they didn't want to put in the work to maintain marriages. They didn't want to put in the work to find good quality people either. It was simply the default human setting of laziness, and society allowed them to be lazy and irresponsible. Which, by the way, criticize the boomers all you want. It's turned up to 12 now for every successive generation. Oh well, you can get government money now on top of it too. UBI. Oh, we're not going to arrest you if you steal less than $900. We'll bail you out of your student loans. I always get a kick. We were lied to by the baby millennials, Zoomers, and you were. But then it's like, okay, now you're going to do the exact same thing the boomers did. Plus pronouns. I guess is the only thing. What's the difference? Well, they add their pronouns. That's it. The same parenting styles, free range children, no responsibility, laziness, but with pronouns. Uh, It's sort of like a Dilbert comic where Wally keeps bringing in chocolates to the office for the month, fattening up his coworkers so he looks good in comparison to them without going to the gym. No, that would take too much intelligence. This does explain some things like how the boomers baby their daughters and in some cases sons, so they're weaker and more spoiled than they were at the age. No, 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 no. People spoil their children because they don't want to work. They don't want to discipline. They're all about positive reinforcement, never about negative reinforcement. And they also are, I don't know what you would call it, genetic supremacy or genetic bias or whatever. My children. I know one entity, I won't say where or how I know it. I know a company that was founded by the patriarch, busts his ass off, grandchildren, spoiled little pieces of shit. They will and I never understood that about the founders or the original builders of wealth. You bust your ass off, mailroom to boardroom, you set up a company, you establish an institute, you slave and you toil, and you don't think that trial and tribulation, those hardships, is what made it that you built this great thing. And then they don't pick up on that. They just, honest to God, it's just shocking. This has nothing to do with politics or anything. Just you could take someone who busted his or her ass off, built a great thing, and then I'm going to give it to my children. Well, you're not going to make them work 80 hours a week. How do you think you got to this place? How do you think it became so great? They just give their kids fucking shit and money and cars and wealth, and the kids don't earn it. And gee, I wonder why it was ran into the ground. So to me, there seems to be this incredible blind spot of all humans. This generation doesn't matter. This is people who put third or fourth after their name. Not that that's the kid's fault. I'm just saying when I hear Thaddeus McDicksuck the fourth, I'm like, tell me a guy who's just doesn't have no callus on his hands. Tell me a guy who's never had to work an overnight. Tell me a guy who wears sunglasses indoors and parties, bruh, bruh. Uh, so I don't think there was a malicious intent. I think if boomers came into wealth or any opportunity to basically not have to discipline their kid, to bribe their kid to right. There's also the buys like that's my daddy's little princess. Daddy's little princess. Nothing's too good. Like I said, modernly now, I've seen it happen. Fist pounding on table, conservative men, America, and then they send their daughter off, pay for everything. She goes majors in journalism, some Marxist leftist liberal arts school. And I really do want to know this. When she comes back, do you buy a strap on for her to wear so she can peg you at the Thanksgiving dinner table? And lecture you about the evils of patriarchy. I've seen it, man. I know a couple guys, but they're all a little bit older than me, because their kids had to go off to school. I've seen it over the years. I'm like, what the fuck? If my kid, one, I wouldn't be paying no kids way through school. Uh, Two, I'd be making damn sure my kids aren't majoring in some worthless sack of shit degree. But if they did, and they came back to me Christmas time or not New Year's, Thanksgiving, and started lecturing me about whatever left is, evils of patriarchy, privilege. I'm like, you are disowned. Get the fuck out of here. If you love the state and the government so much and you think I have provided for you poorly, the fuck out of here. I would, I would move the whole family. Like, make sure that kid can never find me again. I'm like, I'll be stopping back here every once in a while for your apology letter and proof that you are, like, independent and you've learned your life, and then we'll let you back in. In the meantime, I don't ever wanna see it. I'm like, "Yep, grab the other kid, we're going." Uh, but that's because I care. S This does explain some things, like how the boomers baby their daughters, in some cases sons, so they're weaker and more spoiled than they were at that age. That require again, self-awareness that boomers knew they were spoiled at that age, which they're not. Or the boomers cannot have a successful marriage and relationships as the World War II generation did, so they ruin the relationships of the younger generations by lying to them about human, both male and female nature, so they cannot get anything to what the boomers got in comparison to making it more Jesus fucking Christ. What fuck? Everyone wonders why prices are going up. The boomers, it's not boomers when it came to ruining love for future generations. That is feminism. That is feminism. Uh, Regardless of the generation. I would also say that is crabs in the bucket mentality of older women who either chose the path of whatever spinsterhood or not getting, or I'm the career, I'm the boy, and then they have the opportunity cost or second greatest economic cost, regret of, oh boy, I would have liked it. And they got to make sure that young women remain as miserable as them. I think it's more that type of psychology than it is anything generational. I also think the baby boomer men just got blindsided by the divorce. Blindsided. And they all obviously picked the wrong people. Obviously. But it wasn't like, "Hey, I'm gonna choose the wrong person to raise some kids I don't wanna raise, so I could treat them like crap and lie to them and torture them so I feel better by comparison." That is a dude, just do drugs. You wanna feel good, just do that is the most complicated, overly complicated, life-destroying way to make yourself feel better. Just go do some drugs, drink some booze. Um, they cannot get anything to what the boomers got in comparison to making it more difficult to get an entry level job because I don't want them to get up the corporate ladder like they did. Or the tried and true boomer Chad dumped me, so now I'm going to raise hell for all Chads now into the future by becoming intolerable, misandrous feminist. I think that's more real than anything about culture or generation figuring out, hey, you know what? Let's screw over our children so we feel better by comparison. Uh, it could also partly explain why the boomers keep taking so much debt with their McMansions and Corvettes to look like they stepped up compared to their parents. No, that's just materialism. That is because the boomers believe their own bullshit about things and stuff in YOLO. I know we criticize millennials and Zoomers about that, but it's every generation's boomers post. My generation, the Nike high tops, it had to be $300. That's every American because they have been given a new value system called things and stuff. Get rich or die trying. How's it working out for all you that listen to that guy? I forget that rapper. I don't know. It doesn't matter. I don't think boomers are competing against the younger generation. They might be competing against themselves. They might be trying to keep up with the Joneses and the McMansions to look like they stepped up compared to their parents. I don't think they're competing against their parents either. I think they just love stuff more than they love humans. That's it. Let me know your thoughts. This led me to another thought given our current situation, their current situation. They have been used, maintained. This lead me to another thought given their current situation. They have been used maintaining the majority of power in the government due to their generation size, but this slowly changing due to their dying demographics and the eventual demise with death and leaving behind a horrible legacy for their children after they're gone. I think this may be too much for some boomers to bear, where they may go postal or worse. No, no. Again, you attribute way too much agency and self-awareness and self-consciousness for that. Look at the two idiots running for president right now. I the, the boomers, they have no self-awareness, man. None whatsoever. I mean, look at Schumer, Pelosi, all the old farts, McConnell. Like, God damn, man, go away. Robert Reich, Paul Krugman. Oh my God, will you people just retire already? They have nothing else to do but make more money. And if there's another ulterior motive, is just because they're just so wedded to socialism. They got to see their little cult religion work. Uh, You could sort of see that already with some boomers getting snippy and angry if, say, a millennial or zoomer makes way more money than they did, or even at the same age. Concept of inflation or where hard work escapes them, or crappy out power walking them up a mountain without walking sticks. Obviously, right now we are in a recession. I don't care what the media says or the NBER. We are in a recession right now. But even if we recover, I can see the boomer bosses retiring and firing the top employees out of spite because they are forced to leave for retirement or croak in their office, never being able to retire. Well, I honestly, I don't think the current crop of which they would have their replacement executives is so low quality and caliber. You look at Gen X is the ones that brought in DEI, um, ESG. I mean, yes, the boomers originated it, but Gen X is kind of in position of power because now we're not doing this shit anymore. Gen X also has the politics over profession and politics over profit, where it's really, really important. We're save whatever. Choose your it's never a rightist cause, it's some leftist cause. The environment, women, and they're going to run the company into the ground. The boomers will run the companies into the ground or seriously impair them. Look at Disney. I just watch the mismanagement happening now of your major corporations will have an effect in 5 to 10 years. You're going to see lethargic zombie type of corporations. But I would argue, well, who's going to do you see a leadership class that's going to get back to brass tacks and create, like, really, who would lead video games right now? Let's take the video game industry. Who's going to go in there and say, we're done with this live service bullshit. We're done with the woke politics. There's no politics in these video games. You're going to make original games that are fun and enjoyable. People will only, which would be the perfect long-term strategy. But where are you going to get that leader? Where are you going to get, and we're not wasting our time with anything ancillary about donating money to this cause or helping out that. No, we're here to make great video games, period, full stop. Where are you going to get the leadership right now? And then where are you going to get the talent to create that? There's no talent anymore. Have you seen a good movie recently? Has there been any decent, I don't know, I know I'm an author, but I don't like reading. Have there been any good books written? You have a generation raised on government checks or parental money or a combination of both. No one has supported themselves. No one has gone through the process. No one has gone through the ring of fire. No one has galvanized themselves. We are a nation of adult children with no skills or ability. Just go watch The Acolyte. Vagina, 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 lesbianism, vagina. Go girl, boss, snake, look. Lightsabers. Literally. Literally. I can also see boomers messing up society and government budgeting like a spoiled child, kicking and screaming in a grocery store because they did not get the candy that they want off the shelf. What do you mean you can see them? What are you talking about? They already have. They could go full postal and blank up a place, not being at peace with the fact they're going to die and pass on in life without being as happy as they could have been. But I don't think it will come to that. No, I don't think again, that requires self-awareness. That would, I could maybe see some feminists get real pissed off. Frankly, I don't see a lot of people resorting to violence, thankfully. Instead, I think they'll just sabotage shit in the economy and their lines of work, blow up the deficits to a point that they'll be all this is already happening. And just be outright bitter and angry as they exit their careers into retirement to a point where younger generations will forever have it more difficult to obtain not just things like houses and good paying jobs, but also worthwhile friendships and relationships. What are your thoughts on this idea? Boomers lied is basically because they cannot stack up the World War II generation and they lied to make sure that they were better in comparison. No, they're not that deep. No American alive today is that deep, or most Americans are not. Nope. They want their trinkets. They don't want to work. They'll do anything and everything to avoid work. That's it. Then do you think that other generations like Gen X, Millennial, and Zoomer generations continue this trend with their children and grandchildren if they have any course? I don't think any successive generations, post-boomers, are going to purposely treat their kids like crap and impair their lives to make them feel better by comparison. I do believe future generations will continue the tradition of having kids only for their own self-aggrandizement and purposes and continue to abdicate raising their children and telling them no and forcing discipline and self-reliance and self-supportation upon these children. They will continue to have children as consumers. The consumer's mentality will continue on. They will outsource their kids to daycare and public schools and colleges, and they'll continue. My child's great and amazing. Even amazing. But I've said this a long time. Cadillac kids. These aren't kids. The Cadillac kids. You're excited about a kid because it's like a Cadillac. The fuck if you're going to raise them, and you could totally see that. You could totally see that. Particularly if we were to go back to a traditional setting where one parent stays home and raised the kid, and the other parent goes and work, then you'd start to see a real serious maturity in the American population, whichever generation that might be, about raising their own fucking children. But watch how much generations of the future try to get government funding for daycare. Try to get some literally out more than what we do with the public schools. But hey, I had a kid. I don't want to raise it. I want the government to raise it. I need government financed daycare. That'll tell you everything you need to know. And I think my theory on laziness, I don't think it's a theory, it's a law. That is a much better describer of the behaviors of the boomers in any successive generation than it would be any kind of pettiness or frankly, ultimate evil to create a generation of children whose sole purpose it is to fuck them up to make you feel better by comparison. I mean, this every once in a while, there's a little bit of generational jealousy. That just comes with younger people being younger, especially among women, especially because, like, I mean, you could see it also, not specific to boomers, but time immemorial. What are you? A child preferer? A guy who's 40 dates a girl who's 23. What? Look at all the what? A predator. These girls are dumb and naive and uneducated. Like, dude, just go be gel somewhere else. Go be green in the forest. Okay. Don't do it here. Hang on with the rest of the trees. Do you think the trend will modify your downward decline thesis, where we have less and less skilled people in the trades and the like, or just accelerate the decline as each generation gets older and passes on? I think it'll accelerate till the US potentially balkanizes. Yes, there'll be some kind of collapse, some kind of balkanization, some kind of, oh shit, this ain't working. We can't afford anything anymore. And on a grassroots level, not at a national or a policy or even formalized economy level, like corporations or employers, it's just going to be, wow, Frank knows how to fix a car. Bill knows how to fix a house. And those people will be the ones to get barter and traded. But no, we'll keep printing off money. Things are going to get more expensive because we just print off more money and we produce less real important shit like housing. It'll get really hard. There might be revolts or chaos or whatever. I think the internet will continue to mask what's important because people will keep blathering on the internet what they want to be important. Six-pack abs. What was it? Trust on lies. That kind of thing. All that horse shit. What really happens when the food gets expensive. Then farmers are going to be sexy. Then we're going to go back to whether or not people produce wealth in some kind of sanity. But until then, no. All right, there we go. Link below is a link to the course, The Dad You Never Had. That's how I make most of my money. And instead of reading a shit ton of books or where do I jump in? Is it finances? Is it education? I have a kind of a introductory course called The Dad You Never Had, where for the past 20, I just took all the 20 years worth of information and experiences. Here's the shit your dad should have taught you. So if you're, I don't know, sick and tired of, I guess it's the confusion more than anything else. It's one thing, if you're sick and tired of being poor, sure. You're sick and tired of sucking with the opposite sex, sure. You're sick and tired of not having any success. But you know what it really would be is if you're sick and tired of being confused, like, why is this shit not working? Take that course. The Dad You Never Had, link below. You can find that on Teachable. Then also how not to become a millennial. Ever so roughly the same thing as the course, but the course is like, I think $140, $150. And maybe you prefer reading. You could more or less get the same thing out of that by going pick up the book, How Not to Become a Millennial. And it is written for millennials too. It's not against millennials. It is constructively, not even critical. It's constructively observant about what your generation went through. So there. All right, let's go to super chats. Wisda, $2. Tell me lies. Tell me sweet little lies. Yep. Oh, it's not a coincidence that basically the Democrats have come into perma power, and what's her name, Oprah, arose from the environment of the boomers. Dre, $2. Boomers, you're entitled. Are you entitled to the truth? No. Yeah, that's the thing. The truth is hard. Truth is real hard. No one wants to have difficult conversations with their kids. Hazel Rod, $2. Just waiting for an invite to Gen Z Black Market Club. Wait a minute. Are they producing something that's of value? Dre, $2. They say pick yourself up by the bootstraps. Yep. You're unfortunately they're not wrong. That I know how that agitates people, and you have every right to be agitated. But you don't have a choice. What are you going to do? Go work for corporations? Go get a master's? Master's required. You going to play that fucking game? No. Absolutely not. But you are going to have to figure out another way, invariably through self-employment, to do that. Hazel Raw, $2. I'm glad you would say that to your kid, Cap. You care. Yeah. Letting them know there are consequences. Punishment is love. Remains of a woman who picked bear over men. 5,000 wands. It's fascinating to see that the problem that the U.S. is facing and Cappy addresses are very similar to problems that South Korea is dealing with. Look, I don't care. Capitalism has one major flaw in that it spoils its participants. It shields them from the reality. Like you could create enough wealth and consequently borrow upon it to finance several generations of children who never have to go through that initial wealth building part. And then parents like, "Oh, I don't want my children to go through what I did." It's like, that's how you got there, you fucking fool. And they spoil their children. And then you get into petulant little things like, feminism, where like the idea that one sex doesn't need the other, like that's rich. That's rich. Tell me you've come from a privileged background without telling me you've come from a privileged background, or just delusional. Yeah. And Korea, Korea, Japan, they both kind of paralleled each other, where you had their economic miracles of the 50s through the 80s. Hazel Raw, $2. Is things and stuff an adequate replacement to households? If you mean households like family in it, no. But you mean a physical house with shit in it? They're the same thing. John Zanner, $5. The Manipulated Man by Esther Viller. Please read. I don't like reading. You're not wrong. Everyone recommends it, I'm sure, but I probably got the same information. Did I conclude the same thing she did? However, I took the vector of economics, where she probably took a different. Did we come to the same peak? We just took a different route, because I don't need to go climb the peak from a different route. I got to the same peak. Dre, $2. What percent of boomers have a positive net worth? That's a good question, Dre. I know like a third don't have enough money to retire. And that number keeps changing as the stock market changes, as does inflation. Theme Wong, our Thai agent in the field, 40 bot. Today I have a job interview with Thai Boomer HR. Well, be polite and civil. Okay, whatever we say here in the United States applies to the United States and the West. Thailand obviously is a different culture. Their HR departments, which I wouldn't imagine them having, but don't assume the bad things here upon your culture or people. I can't imagine it's as bad in Thailand or Philippines, or second world country, or Philippines is a third world country, I find out later. I don't be judgmental of them for the sins of Americans, is what I'm saying. Hazel Rod, $2. The coming retirement boom. Lemmings. Generation Apollo, $5. Do you think the predicted population collapse is the doomsday scenario? Some are saying. I think it's overblown. I hear people who engage in shock, doomsday, collapse. These are just people with no lives. Flat Earth. Have you met a flat Earth person who's got their shit going on otherwise in life? Really, you're like, oh well, they're a surgeon, and then they got this, and they just happen to be flat Earth. No, it's always. Do you remember? I don't know. There used to be. It was a quick little spate of uh, Bigfoot hunters. It's just a bunch of fat middle-aged dudes imagining they're finding something. I it's the same thing. "Oh, we're all gonna die, Girls, I don't wanna have children because 'cause they'll contribute to global warming." I don't have time for low IQ people and philosophically dishonest people. Like, dude, if your philosophical life is so bored, you don't have to jerk off to conspiracy theories or sensationalism or doomsday and all that. Uh, I mean, not that Malthusian economics, the study of like, the tsetse fly experiment, that does happen, but you just Oh my God, we're overpopulating. And then the exact same people, we're not having enough children. Oh, we raise the birth rate. Which one is it? Which one? Alex Patino, a truck driving Latino agent in the field, $5. I tried looking for The Manipulated Man on Audible. It's only in German. Imagine that. But another title called The Manipulative Man does come on. Exactly. Do we really need to read it? Do we? Don't you just have to go outside and like, you're oppressing us all. And that's why we're not hiring men and we're hiring only women now. Like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I don't know. Do single dads get anywhere near the amount of money that single moms do? And do we need to read this book? All right, there you guys go. Questions, answers, assholeconsulting.com. I'll see you guys later. Toodles.